I guess first, the newest hire, Tim Rattay. Were you trying to get a better quarterback than you on the staff?
I did that. I was successful in accomplishing that. Known Tim for some time, and has been able to, visit with him and just talk about his many experiences, whether it be the NFL or college football, coaching quarterbacks, wide receivers. Just very fortunate to have somebody like that on our staff who has that versatility and can bring a lot to our passing game. So good to have him on board. And obviously when you go into pro camps, the Commanders or the Titans, you're used to having that NFL. Where's the playbook? The game's on Sunday. So he's adapted pretty quick, and he's going to be a great asset to our staff.
Other side of the ball, what does Todd bring defensively?
Familiarity, number one. Just looking inward selfishly, just familiarity with his scheme, the way he operates. But I think what Todd will bring is just a simple approach, in terms of just the intangibles that we want to play with on defense, a tremendous amount of experience. He's packed his bags and gone this at different places throughout the country, and so this is another chance to, install and orientate this defense with it in the spring. But familiarity, toughness, experience, and then obviously recruiting value. He's been in Florida quite a bit, South Florida, FIU, so he's had those experiences down there and towards the Panhandle. So there's a lot of things that he'll be able to bring. But very, very grateful that he's on board.
Following up on that, this may be a better question for him, but how different is the defense going to be now?
Are we going to play man? Yeah. We're going to play zone? Yeah. We're going to play man or zone. You only got those two choices. We're going to line up in a 3-man front, 4-man front, 5-man front. Yep, all those. We're going to blitz. Yep. There's things that are kind of universal, in college football. This defense does it at Troy. This defense does it at Memphis. This team does it at South Alabama. Then there's little tweaks, things that kind of make your defense unique. But it's going to be attacking. It's going to be up the field. And those are things that we want to do to create negative plays. It's hard to stop offenses now. It's really damn hard. So you got to slow them down with negative plays, create turnovers, take the ball away, and again, universal. It's no different than any other defense in the country. How do we force TFLs? How do we get them behind the chains and make them do something they don't want to do and start throwing the ball and get takeaways, whether it be sack, fumbles, or picks? So those are, the tenets of his defense. Hard. It's going to be fast. It's going to be physical. It's going to attack. But there's going to be some multiplicity to it too.
With so many new faces, new coaches, freshmen, transfers, how do you integrate that during spring practice? Is there anything intentional that you do to help galvanize people both on and off the field?
Yeah, no, that's real. It's the NFL. It's here. We're one of the fewer turnover rosters on our league, and we're having 41 new players. We've got some teams that are going to have 70 to 71 new players on their roster this year. So, connection. As soon as you get them all in the building and they're all sitting in the same seats and you know that there's no life rafts or exit plans, then how do you get connected? And so, we've done a number of things. I don't think it's secret sauce, but I don't want to go into, what all we do as a program. But we find ways to get groups together, whether it be eating together, working together, service projects. We were at Feed the Gulf Coast last week and, do things together. One of the easiest ways to get to know people is break bread and tell your stories. That's why it's my mission to get a dining hall here where all athletes can sit down and have a meal together. But that's what we do. We split them up and do some certain activities and things like that throughout the semester. Some competitions. There may be a March Madness tournament amongst our team to see if, no gambling by any means. But we want to make sure that we have some competition, bring some people together over some things. So meals, things that help our community, competitions, things like that are things that we'll do to bring them all together.
The fact there's no spring portal, how good does that make you feel, just knowing that the roster you have now is probably going to be what you have or close to it?
Yeah, I think every coach feels the same on that. It's just hard to commit yourself as a player if you're looking elsewhere. It's hard to commit yourself to a scheme or a way of doing things when 15, 20, 30 people can fly out the window at the last second. And you're like, invested a lot of time in that scheme with this kid who's no longer here. Invested a lot of time and money in this team building experience, but 25 of them are gone now. I think it's easier for coaches to set their teeth into these next 8 months, starting in January when the portal ends, and say, all right, this is our team and this is how we're going to get connected. And, I've got 40 new ones. I got 70 new ones. This is our plan to go about bringing these guys together and getting them ready to play in 9 months, because it's a brand new offensive defense. So it can't be all football because they got to get to know each other. It's really simple. The tighter you're connected, the harder you'll fight for somebody. So there's a balance between how much scheme and how much connection throughout the semester that you're trying to balance out as it goes into the summer and fall.
You're going to be your own offensive coordinator this year. I know you did a good bit of that last year, but just what went into that decision to approach it that way this year?
Well, just coaching the quarterbacks, having been more familiar with this offense, having good help in the room, people that have been a part of this system or have great thoughts that they can bring to it. It's not going to be a one-man band. I'm not going to do it all. I mean, we're going to have Bryant's going to be involved in the run game along with Coach Mann, Chrysler, and Tim will be involved in the passing game. We'll do it all together the same way it won't be a one-man band in the defensive staff room. We're going to have some input. Now, at some point, just like any other business or committee, somebody's got to make the decision and we got to go with it. But we're going to use all heads in the room.
Are there certain markers that you want to hit in spring practice, like by midway through you want to have X amount installed or whatever? Just whatever parameters you have for those 50.
Yeah, I think the installation is the installation in terms of offense, defense, and special teams, what we want to wrinkle their brains with in the spring versus what we can come back and get more emphasis on in the June and July summer months. But really we kind of categorize it in terms of what goals we have. What specific position goals do we have for our group? What unit goals do we have for our offense, defense, and special teams? And then there's, kind of some intangibles that we've put some measurements on in terms of, what we're doing to run the ball in defense, what we're doing to play physical on offense, and those type of things. So we kind of look at it before we go into spring and, here's some things that we want to do at our position. Well, we lost our center at O-line, so we're going to establish a center. Who's your rotating guards? Who's your rotating tackles? Then there's, specific fundamental goals amongst that O-line. Then there's unit goals. We need to be better with ball security, or more explosive in the passing game or whatever those are. And then there's just some, how hard are we playing? Those are the goals that we kind of look at as we go throughout spring. And then, you may get through the first scrimmage and go back, look at your goals. We're getting there on this one. This one, honestly, we're not giving them a chance to accomplish this goal. We need to call this play more and give them more opportunities to execute this. But we'll evaluate those as we go throughout spring.
Quarterback, would you characterize that as a competition, or is Bishop the guy because he was the starter all year long?
Yeah, the competition's everywhere. That's what, tomorrow morning I'll meet with the team. But you're not going to get a job or lose a job in a day, the first day of spring practice. And when we get done with spring, we're not going to, sign, stamp, deliver, you're a starter. Hell, there's still 3 more months before we even get into fall camp, and then there's 25 practices. You can be the leader going into the clubhouse, after spring, but we're gonna keep things open and we're gonna compete. I don't never really felt like that. I understand quarterbacks, sometimes you have that, but we're not coming off of a year where anybody should feel like this is my spot only.
And speaking of that, coming off of last year, have you noticed more urgency around the building, not just the team, but in your own preparation, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pride. It's that simple. It's pride. So you have some guys who've been here, and you can see that with them, and then you've got guys that are brand new. That quite honestly, I don't know how much they need to hear. It doesn't matter to them. But what are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing next week? What are we doing next month? So there's a balance in talking to some of those guys, but I see that with the coaches staff. I see that with the players. I see that with the strength staff, with the training room. People, urgency to get things better, to get things fixed.
There's an energy in the building today because we're about to go. Talk about that excitement of the day before.
Yep. The guys, today we went out and had a mock practice. It was hard to tell them it was mock because they're just chomping at the bit. But they'll be ready to go tomorrow. There's genuine excitement. I'm not one on, fake juice. I like organic juice, and it's organic right now. And now as a coach, that it's day 1. Now is it that way day 6? Is it that way day 12? Is the juice and the energy and the urgency still there? And that's why they call you coach. That's where you provide those things, the motivation and those type of things to continue to move and improve. But I feel it from our staff. I feel it from our players. I'm always kind of underneath the surface until you actually get out there, and then when practice starts, hell, it's on. But right now we're in a building and it's 72 degrees. So, tomorrow morning about 7:45, 8 o'clock, it'll be on.
Anybody out or limited?
Pardon?
Anybody out or limited injury-wise?
I'm not even going to start down that list because I'm going to forget somebody. But, yes, we have some guys out. Some guys that had some surgeries from the beginning of last season have not rehabbed all the way. Trying to think of them all. That would not be a good thing for me to start going down the laundry list. But Right now, Colt Bradley's still recovering at safety. Everybody else should be kind of able to go. David Houston still got a surgery with his wrist. Anthony Eager needed to have surgery on his wrist. P.J. Martin's still recovering from his back. Quarterbacks are good. Tight ends are good. Wideouts, Anthony's the only one. O-linemen, don't really have anything O-line-wise right now. D-line, Andrew Hines passed yesterday or day before yesterday, excuse me, so he'll miss the first practice. He's got a funeral to go to tomorrow. Steven Johnson, he'll be back on Tuesday when we come back from spring break. D-lineman, Caleb Dozier had foot surgery. He'll be out for spring. Terrell Johnson still recovering from his ACL surgery at the end of November. He'll be out. I'm sure there's more, but that's off the top of my head in terms of kind of who you covered in games last year.
You're doing one and then taking 2 weeks off. What's the thinking behind that?
I'm just taking a week off, spring break. Yeah, makes sense. Practice Thursday, off a week, come back Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so taking a week off because it's spring break, it's college, they have to have a spring break. And then from a recruiting standpoint, I just don't want to be going too late into April to where we can't get into the junior colleges and go see some of those. Sometimes if you extend to the 18th or 25th of April, those kids are already done practicing. So I want to make sure that we get early enough. Twofold, we can get into the junior colleges, but we can also make sure that our kids finish the semesters right academically because some of these kids started late. And so I want to get them back in there those last 2 weeks to make sure they finish their finals strong.
That's a little off topic, but Colin Lacey was at the NFL Combine the other day. I happened to hear his entire media availability, and he was asked a couple questions about being here. He gave you a lot of credit. He was like, I understood football better, what to do at the top of his routes and things like that. Two questions. What do you remember about his time and maybe what he brings to the next level? And then what do you tell those guys at those receiver positions to be able to help them to kind of get where he is, Jamal, and all these guys that are on the next level?
Probably with Colin. Colin's not, I mean, he is talkative, but he's not going to lead conversations, And the thing with Colin is how good he wanted to be. He wanted to be good. He wasn't a guy that verbalized it to you every day in the hallway in terms of Coach, I want to be the greatest. But you could tell by how coachable he allowed himself to be. And his previous role in the previous staff, his role increased greatly the next year. So he was learning things that, he was still a young player with the previous staff, so he hadn't been brought into that sophomore year. And so we were expecting more from him. It was great. We loved what you did last year, but we want to do more with you. And, and he leaned into that. And he got those things, and he made a huge third down catch to help us win the Bowling Green game, early in the year one. And then just continued to add on that, and everything that we tried to add, he was there meeting us. There was never a time where hey, he can't get it, or he doesn't want to learn this, or, he's resisting this, or it's too hard for him, or it's not natural. He was going to find a way, to take ownership over his role. And now call that. You can call that. I'll run it. And so he had that type of maturity that when it got presented and we want to change week to week, he could stay adjustable and do all those things. And that's how you can end up with 94 catches in a year. And he did every bit of that. And, we coached him, but, you have to have a willing student. And he was very willing. And that's why he was at the Combine. That's why he was at the Senior Bowl. It's just doesn't matter if it was Jeff Brom, Kane Womack, or Major Applewhite. He was going to listen to him. He wanted to be good.